Effie and this is What Effie Reads. Today I'm going to be talking about moments from books that live rent-free in my brain. So, spoiler warning ahead, because the vast majority of these moments will be spoilers for books. So please check the chapters and I'll try and pop timestamps down in the description. So if you don't want to be spoiled on any of these books, you can skip around. The first of these moments comes from How It All Blew Up by Arvin Ahmadi, and it's the nipple story. If you've read this book, you'll know exactly what I mean, and you'll probably be also grimacing when I mention this story. Basically, the premise of this book is a young man who's about to graduate from high school and believes that he's going to be outed. So instead of attending his graduation, he escapes to Italy for the summer and has this really fun, very escapist summer in Italy. And throughout this book, there's repeated mentions of the nipple story. And then when you finally get to it, it is horrific. Like, content warning for body horror, because this is like makes me feel a bit ill just thinking about it. But essentially this story revolves around someone who is playing with their partner's nipples, and their partner has a nipple piercing, and somehow they manage to like suck a tendon or a nerve out of the nipple. It's not pleasant, and I wish I'd never read it. It's horrible. And I think that's all I'm going to say on that one, to be honest. The next moment that lives rent-free in my mind comes from The Arrival of Someday by Jen Malone. In this book, we have a young girl who was born with biliary atresia, and it has been well managed for her whole life. However, she has gone through her life understanding that she would require a transplant at some point in her life, and that point is now. So you're following this girl as she's waiting for a transplant. And throughout the story, you get there's a feeling of hope and joy, and this story is told from a first person perspective. So when she dies, it comes out of nowhere, because one, it's first person perspective, so your narrator is dying, and then two, it's written in such a way that it's intended to be quite realistic, because essentially it's a cold, it's a virus that ends up killing her because her immune system is so compromised that it doesn't take much, and it comes very suddenly. 1 minute she's okay is probably not the right word, but she's enjoying her life, and the next she gets ill, she gets a fever, and that's it. And it's so powerful, and like I say, it feels like it comes out of nowhere, that I have mad respect for this moment, and it is completely unforgettable. The next moment comes from A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. This is a book that follows 4 young men after they leave university and they're beginning their lives in New York. So whilst you are following these 4 men, your primary focus is on Willem, an actor just at the start of his career, and Jude, a young man who is very enigmatic, but also is dealing with a lot of mental health difficulties. And throughout the story, you're led to think that the story is leading towards Jude killing himself because he's struggling so much with his mental health, and like there are attempts. His relationship with self-harm is such that you could see him taking it too far. However, the story delivers a real gut punch at the end of the penultimate act, as these characters seem happy. They're never going to be completely better, but they seem to be managing things. And then Willem dies. And it's because this car accident comes out of nowhere. You're not expecting it. And then to add to the impact, this book is very cleverly done that every time there's a dramatic moment where it feels like it could be touch and go, it switches into a flashback. So you're almost left on a bit of a cliffhanger, wondering what's going to happen. So this car accident happens, and then like it doesn't immediately say they're dead. And then you switch into a flashback. And throughout the book, every time that it's done that, the result has been in the positive. So there's one point where you think Jude has managed to kill himself, and then you get a flashback, and actually through a sequence of events, he is still alive. So you think, oh, okay, that's what's going to happen here. But no, that's not how this goes. This is very much they were dead on impact. There was no saving them. And I think as well, it's not just that this moment is incredibly impactful, but it's the way that it affects the characters in the story that really sticks with me as well. The next moment we've got is from Each of Us a Desert by Oshiro. Now, this moment isn't actually from the story, it's from the acknowledgements at the end of the book. And in those acknowledgements, Oshiro talks about their late partner, and it is so from the heart and delivered with so much love that it just completely stuck with me and made me feel for Oshiro so deeply. The next moment comes from the Saga of Darren Shan by Darren Shan. I can't remember the specific book that this occurs in, so if you're not so this is kind of a sweeping spoiler warning for this series. Towards the end of one of the books, there's a major character death, like this character Larton Crepsley that you first meet in the first book and is like a mentor for our protagonist Darren Shan, dies, and the way that it's delivered is what could potentially be seen as a cheap narrative trick, but it's written in such a way that someone saves the day at the very last minute, and then you go through this, and then your protagonist goes, no, I have to apologise, that's not what happened, I wish that's what happened. And it just sticks with me, because this is a character that Shan has become so close with, and you can see in the way that he writes a I wish this is what happened scenario, that he's absolutely devastated by it. The next moment is from Lost in the Neverwoods by Aiden Thomas. I've talked about this a couple of times, but it is very much a moment that really sticks with me. And it's basically when Wendy discovers that Neverland is kind of like a purgatory, or possibly a heaven, and the reason that her brothers aren't going to be able to come back is because they were killed, and Peter Pan saw how devastated Wendy was when she witnessed her brothers being murdered, that he took her along with him. And it's just such a sad and challenging moment. Like, I'm sure it's not a novel concept, the idea that Neverland is in fact like a heaven, and that's why the kids never grow up, but it's one that I hadn't seen before, and I certainly didn't see coming in this book. And it's for that reason that it really sticks with me. I think also the fact that the way that they died, and the way that nobody discovered their bodies until years later, when Peter was like, no, this is what happened to your brothers. It's so painful, and you can feel the sorrow and all of the hope that Wendy and her family had. It's just in an instant gone. The next moment I'm going to touch on very briefly, and it's from The Gloaming by Kirsty Logan. So I can't remember the exact circumstances, but there's a character in The Gloaming called B, and he's the protagonist's little brother. I believe it's little brother anyway. And at some point he dies. I think it's near the start of the story, but I could be wrong. And throughout the story, you've got a narrator, so it's like written in third person. And then it's revealed that your narrator is this character of B. And just the fact that I love that as a really unique twist. And clearly it's stuck with me, even though I don't remember the exact specifics of the plot otherwise. The next moment comes from As Far as the Stars by Virginia Macgregor. This is a book that I generally didn't actually love. However, there's a moment in the book, So the premise of this book is that this girl has to pick up her brother from the airport for her sister's wedding. Except when she gets to the airport, the plane's been in a crash, but she's in complete denial about her brother being actually on the plane, because it's not the airport that he should have been coming into, And there's a variety of reasons why she doesn't believe that her brother was in fact on that plane. And then there's a moment in the book where she finally stops being in denial and she just completely breaks down and she feels like it's her fault that her brother died. And it's so heart-wrenching. And as much as I didn't enjoy this book, that was a really good moment. The next moment is in an Instant by Suzanne Redfearn. The basic premise of this book is that there is a car accident on a wintry night, and the people involved in this car accident are two families. So you've got a parents and 3 kids, and another set of parents and 1 kid, and then this third child who is best friends with the children, but is not accompanied by her parent. And there are so many really memorable moments from this book, but what really sticks with me is the car accident and the fact that our protagonist dies in that instant, really, hence the title. But there's also a point later in the book where our protagonist, as they are dead, they can kind of see everything that's going on. And the protagonist's brother has, I believe he's got a learning disability, although I'm not 100% sure. And he is basically manipulated into going out into these poor weather conditions by one set of the parents. And you see him get lost in the icy conditions, and you're watching this young man die slowly, and it's all because of these really selfish adults who should have known better, who should be looking after this child, and instead they've sacrificed him. And it's such a painful moment, but so well written. And just one final moment to end on something a little bit happier. We've got Space Hopper by Helen Fisher, and the concept of this is that a woman discovers a way that she can see her mother, despite her mother dying when she was a young girl. And the way that she's actually able to see her mother is that she discovers an old space hopper box through which she can actually go back in time and spend time with her mother. And there's a moment towards the end of the book where it's clear that she is struggling with this obsession to spend time with her mother, and she knows that in doing that, she is sacrificing her life in the here and now with her husband and her child. So she makes a really difficult decision to get rid of the box. And as a sort of way of saying goodbye, she decides to take the box out to the sea and throw it into the sea. And just after she's put the box into the water, she starts seeing someone struggling in the water, and it turns out it's her mother. And it's this brilliant twist where this woman that she thought was dead, it actually turned out that her mother had disappeared when she was young because she'd fallen into the space hopper box. And it's this beautiful, beautiful reunion and a lovely way of wrapping up the story. So that's some moments from books that live rent-free in my brain. Let me know any books that have had that kind of impact with you. And until next time, bye!